Anyway, here it is. America doing more good guy stuff because this is good guy stuff.
On Iran-backed militants in Yemen. The latest response to repeated attacks on ships in the Red Sea. Senior White House correspondent Selena Wang has the details for us. Good morning, Selena.
Hey, good morning, Michael. The U.S., UK, and its allies have launched another major attack against the Houthis in Yemen. Now, their goal is to stop this militant group that's backed by Iran from continuing to attack ships in the Red Sea. But so far, multiple rounds of U.S. strikes, including a massive joint airstrike led by the U.S. earlier this month, they have failed to stop the Houthis from attacking. But this time, officials say that they have hit an underground Houthi storage facility in addition to drone and missile sites. Now, U.S. officials, they insist to me that their strategy is working, that it is making it harder for the Houthis to continue their attacks in the Red Sea. But the Houthis say they aren't backing down. They claim that their actions are in protest of Israel's military campaign in Gaza. It's created.
It's kind of crazy that they're at least admitting that now. I feel like people who misunderstand your opinions on things don't get your extreme levels of sarcasm. Yeah. Here is the straight man take here. Okay. It's kind of interesting that at least the media is like, one, openly admitting that the attacks are not successful. Two, at least mentioning what the position of the Ansar Allah government is, right? Which is good. Russia getting massive W's from Israel going batshit. Dude, if I was more of like a Ukraine NATO adjacent liberal, that's what I would say. I'd be like, Russia got Hamas to attack Israel so that Israel would strike back, and then all of the weapons would go to Israel instead of Ukraine. Therefore, Biden has lost the Russian gambit. Something like that. Yeah. Russia and Iran are propping up Hamas. My gigalib parents literally had that exact same take. Yeah. Yeah. Russia. How far does it go, chat? Think about it. Stalin was pro-Israel. Okay. How far does the well go? Dun, dun, dun. And everybody knows Putin and Stalin, same guy. Lockheed Martin Corp stock jump when Biden declared Yemen bombing campaign. Yeah. That is such a stretch. Okay, I'm being sarcastic now. Everything I just said was a joke. Okay? What? Interview on Yemen? All right.
Costly disruptions in one of the world's most critical trading routes, and it's created a dangerous situation. There's no clear end in sight to these back and forth strikes that have the potential to spiral into a wider war. Mary?
That is certainly the concern, Selena. Thank you.
I think part of the reason why it doesn't spiral into a wider war is because a wider war is just ongoing. Like, think about it this way, okay? In the news, you sometimes hear about like Iranian-backed militias striking American bases in Syria or Iraq, specifically in Iraq. And you're like, American military members are in Syria or Iraq? I thought we like pulled out of those places. What's going on? And it's a testament to the reality that like the broader conflict is already ongoing. It never stops going on, I would say. So that's why it's not like, I guess, escalating into something even deeper. With the exception of like bombing Yemen, because bombing Yemen is broadening the conflict for sure. What is this? I'm a total noob, I know, but is tanky a derogative term towards lefties and is reclaimed, or is it a specific kind of leftist / communist? It originally was invented in the UK to suppress the Hungarian Revolution, counter-revolution, with the usage of tanks. So the British anarchists and British leftists, by and large, considered anyone who defended the USSR's actions there to be a tanky. Nowadays, it just means like anyone whose opinions I don't like that is a leftist. I guess back then it was kind of like that too, but it's mostly just a way to try and fit you contextually into a box that you can prop up and say is bad and wrong, while simultaneously still having some kind of claim over being like a progressive lefty. People that used to call leftists SJWs now use tanky. Yeah, it's just, that's it. It's a very liberal thing to say. Gross. Yeah. I thought it meant you just like tanks. No, I mean, yeah, that's a part of it. It's just used for libs to say you're going too far. Yeah, that's true. But also the strikes aim to temporarily remove the Houthi capabilities to specifically target ships and bases with their missiles and drones. The goal isn't to unseat the Houthis or kill the leaders of the Houthis, so their power/control isn't directly threatened, and so Iran won't get directly involved, etc. Yeah, but it still's not stopping it. And the more it doesn't stop it, the more the attacks will continue. Some of those attacks are going to inevitably hit civilians. Like, we know how America operates. If they continue along with this trajectory, they will inevitably say, well, maybe it's better. Regarding why it isn't. Oh, yeah, you're right. Regarding why it isn't becoming a regional war. Sure, fair. It is broadening the conflict for sure, and we know how the American and the allied forces operate in this situation, and we'll see what happens. I thought it was a China communist because you're an apologist for the Square incident. Wait, what? No, they just say that for China and everyone. Look, nowadays it's just used by those who I guess are outside of the confines of like the American State Department positions. The Square incident, he means like Tiananmen Square. It's a terminally online liberal pejorative for anyone who's to the left of them, yes. And anyone who doesn't like fit the bill in the traditional ways that you're supposed to be like kind of in defense of the American State Department's positions on everything. Like if you say, hey, I don't think it's a good idea to bomb Yemen on moral grounds, like not even pragmatic, just straight on moral grounds. I don't think we should be bombing the poorest country on like one of the poorest countries on the planet, right? That just withstood a genocide. And if you say that, well, then you're a tanky. You want like Yemen to come and kill America. Like, it has definitely escalated into anything and everything that the American State Department considers to be a foreign adversary. It's like it's very successful way to counter propagandize against those who are anti-war by making those guys seem like they're silly and ridiculous because, like, of course America has to do war, but in a progressive way. That's it. Because, like, it's basically like saying, well, I don't think you understand how homophobic the Yemeni population is. You must be a tanky, as though we're, like, bombing Yemen to make them gay or something. Deprogramming is about asking questions, and I think letting people deal with their own contradictions. Yeah. They're liberal, except they think anyone wearing a balaclava or hijab needs to be liberated by gay bombs. Kind of like that. Word comes out of anarchist circles. Tanky equals pro-state, pro-imperialist leftist. Yes. Tanky is a thought terminating cliche. Yes. It has like a similar utility to when someone says this is a terrorist. It is a way to just like, but because it's lesser utilized and lesser known for the most part, most people don't even know what the fuck it is. So you have to like explain the label first and all of the negatives associated with it. But overall, it's like it's like terrorism is something that you know. Everybody knows what terrorism is. It's bad. It's a non-state actor. They're doing bad. They're killing civilians, and they're violent barbarians, and they must be stopped through violent means, right? So like, but the real purpose of the distinction, the real purpose of the of slapping that sticker on someone on the political side is to deny them their habeas corpus, like the people that you're prosecuting. If you do apprehend them, you don't give them the normal civil liberties that you would give to other criminals. So that's number one. The other political purpose for it, from a marketing standpoint, is to just say, don't even like try to understand where they're coming from, because then you'll be giving into them, and these guys are bad, right? It's like the greatest example of this, something I've talked about a lot, is with Hamas, right? Like Hamas, just like any other militancy, engages in acts of terror, okay? But then there are certain circumstances in which like Hamas's militant wing 100% is not engaging in acts of terror. Right now, Hamas is not engaging in an act of terror inside of Gaza. They're actually defensively defending themselves. They have all of the rights, all of the legal rights under international humanitarian law to basically defend themselves and the Palestinian population inside of Gaza against a belligerent occupier. Israel, on the other hand, is currently engaging in statewide terror. Israel does not have a right. Yes, Hamas does not have a right to kidnap people. That's true. Okay, that's true. You don't have a right to kidnap civilians. You do have a right to have prisoners of war, but you do not have a right to kidnap civilians. So that part is correct. Okay. However, if we're looking at like war crimes across the board, Israel is engaging in a tremendous amount of war crimes. Hamas isn't defending Palestinians, though. They're just trying to inflict damage on Israel. No, right now they are. That's just not correct. So, having said that, the reason why we got to this, the reason why we're even talking about this is because like we were talking about the terrorism distinction, right? That designation is given across the board to people so that you can just completely remove like rational thought from their behavior. Because the fear is, well, one, it's a much more effective way of marketing whatever you do to deal with them, right? If someone is a terrorist, then yeah, 25,000 Palestinians are killed over the course of 100+ days, and that's totally valid. Because why? Well, we're dealing with terrorists. Like terrorism is hard, you know. We got to do counterinsurgency. Like we have to do it, and you know, in that time frame, like we're gonna kill a bunch of people, and it's whatever, you know. They're not human though. So that is it's a convenient way to slap someone with a bad guy sticker, and then also yell at anyone and everyone that even tries to understand what their position is, right? Like if you even try to understand if there's any sort of rational thinking or any sort of logic in their actions, no matter how violent or inhumane those actions might be from time to time, and October 7th is a great example of the barbarity for sure, right? If you do that, then you're a bad guy too. You must be like a defender of terrorism. Now, as a Muslim Turkish American, I'm no stranger to being called a defender of terrorism. I gained, I guess, I've started doing political commentary at the tail end of the Obama Islamophobia era, right, where it was popping off for sure. So I was always branded as a Muslim apologist, and that kind of went away under the Trump administration for a little bit. But we're totally back to that worldview now, and I do definitely remember the way that people were branded like Saddam apologists for being anti-Iraq war invasion, right? The illegal and unjustifiable occupation of Iraq, which now everybody agrees was bad, and also claims that they were against, even if they weren't. At the time, the overarching feeling was, oh, dude, Iraq, you don't want America to invade Iraq, but you love Saddam? You know he gassed the Kurds, right? He gassed the Kurds. And why do you hate our military? Why do you want terrorism to win? Why don't you go there? Why don't you go there? Why don't you go live there if you don't like America? So basically, that exact same principle has been recycled in different ways, and they still do that. Can't wait for every bloodthirsty lib call for genocide right now and say like in 5 years they were against Israel. Gonna be the whole this you posting happening. It doesn't matter. None of the this you shit matters. Guys, the reality is you can be wrong every day at the behest of the American State Department and you will be elevated. Okay? No one will care about how wrong you were. On the other side, however, if you oppose the State Department and you're wrong one time, they will never let you forget that. Look no further than Hasan thought Russia would never invade Ukraine. I have been branded a Vladimir Putin defender and Russia supporter in perpetuity, despite the fact that I've never been a Vladimir Putin defender at all. Right? So it doesn't matter. And in order to make that narrative stick, people have gone to incredible lengths claiming that like I was duped by Arma footage, okay? That someone sent me in the chat, even though, you know, it was like a 30-second clip, claiming that, no, you say you were, but it's so stupid because you've never actually watched the full video. You've never watched a full video. Like, if you look at the actual video, someone sent it in. I thought it was real for a second. Okay. I started off hate watching you for that one. Lol. Now I agree with you on most things. This is a common thing, by the way. A lot of people do come in here and think that I'm a hyper pro Russia guy or something. And it's not the case. Oh, by the way, Yugopnik Twitch, thank you for the raid. It was a gun shooting tracers that spelled send nudes and you realized it was Arma all 15 seconds after the clip started. Yeah, but the first 15 seconds, I'm like, what is this? And that's all that has gotten play. It's a very famous clip. It's a very famous clip of people thinking that it's like it's real, that like, oh, Hasan got duped for this. Look at him, he got duped for this. And if they had ever watched, this is facts. I used to be a DGG viewer and I heard about you. Then my friend recommended you, and now I simply do not watch the support tech air conditioning technician anymore. I don't know what that means, but yeah. I don't know what any of that means, but my point is those get elevated over and over again, and it doesn't really change much because people are not really interested in what my perspective is. But yeah. If anything, people fool the Ghost of Kiev are worse off than your take. I mean, yeah, at the time I covered the Ghost of Kiev being most likely and not a real story, but it didn't matter. There was a bunch of stuff that like the pro-NATO side were wrong on, but it didn't matter. That's my point, guys. You will always hear Noam Chomsky getting like something wrong. Like Noam Chomsky originally said with the Khmer Rouge, like, I would hold back on believing the State Department information, and I would wait for more information to come, right? And they use that against him every day, all day, every day, nonstop, right? Why? Because he spent his entire, comparing himself to Chomsky, Lamau, but real? No. Of course, I'm not saying I'm like Noam Chomsky at all. Please do not misunderstand me. After all, I never hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, and I would never do that. Okay? My point is, if you are against the overarching State Department narrative, there are certain things that everyone kind of associates with you that is like bad, and they point to it even 50 years into the fucking future. Okay? And that's not like, that's not about finding the truth or having like a consistent moral position or anything like that. It's simply, it's simply just going, well, this guy was wrong 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And I'm going to somehow make that like a moral issue. Like I'm going to say that he was wrong, remember, 60 years ago. But don't forget, most of the people that you listen to that are in positions of power have gotten things wrong over and over again. But if they've gotten things wrong over and over again at the behest of the State Department, then it doesn't matter. That's it. No one will remember it, and no one will care about it. Okay? You get a free pass as long as like everybody agrees with you. So that's it. Now, having said that, yeah, libs don't even care anymore. Look at the Nord Stream example. Yeah, this is a great example of this. I see we've reached the CIA probably blew up Nord Stream. Who cares, bro stage. This is a great example of this. If you remember, but you were fooled by it. See, this is what I mean. Like, people still ride this thing. Nord Stream is a great example. The Bolivian coup is another great example. Every single liberal that defended the American position on this project, right, on both of these things, right, no one punished them for it. No one ever brings it up. Because why would you bring it up? It made no sense for Russia to blow up its own pipeline. On its face, it made no sense. I called it out. I said, I don't know, maybe, but it seems very unlikely at the time, right? And liberals went along with it. They were like, no, you're wrong. You're actually wrong. It definitely was Russia. Did a single person ever get called out for it? Did a single person ever get called out for the supposed Cuba Libre protests that were happening, SOS Cuba protests that were happening? Fox News and even liberal outlets showed pro-Cuba counter-protesters as though they were anti-government protesters. To that length, to that extent. Okay? But it doesn't matter. The Venezuelan election, remember when the New York Times said it was rigged and it was later confirmed by the EU and UN that it wasn't? Yes. It's just like we move on from it, okay? We move on from it no matter how ridiculous it is, right? Like Havana syndrome, another complete falsehood that I was completely correct on. Like, it was ridiculous. And there were liberals who believed that too, that would come in here and yell at me about this. This does not mean that I won't get things wrong. Of course I do. I'm a human, okay? I'm by myself. I'm a human being after all. And I certainly will get things wrong from time to time. Everybody does. It's just, if you're getting things wrong while you're simultaneously defending a position, even though you get things right almost all the time, but you make mistakes from time to time, people will grab onto it and use that as a way to say, look, he's wrong. Don't listen to anything he has to say. Please do not listen to his commentary. No matter what you do, just watch me tell you in like 3-second clips, 8-second clips, 20-second clips that I've like massaged in this direction, and get mad about him anyway. But like I always say, if you come in here and you're open-minded, if you're charitable, you will understand that you've most likely been lied to about my positions. That's it. Other than the top of the hour ad break, which is true. That is definitely something I will serve you at the top of the hour. So anyway, is this supposed to be some kind of gotcha? Yeah, it was probably CIA. Like, are you 5? You are ignoring the part about the far left now perfectly okay with causing oil and fuel leak into the ocean when they criticize over the Nord Stream. CIA acts on its accord 80% of the time, this guy says. I find it hilarious how hard the left cried when the Nord Stream pipeline got blown up and they said it was an environmental disaster, but shooting missiles at large ships full of oil and fuel is apparently okay in their book, Lamau. I think that it's not even comparable to the Nord Stream leak, but it wasn't the environmental disaster that was the major issue there. Yeah. Yeah. The pipeline is going to cause a significantly larger environmental impact than a boat. Yeah. All right. Here's the minute ad break now. Anti-trans bathroom genital check bill may pass in Utah. That's insane. Have you heard about the cyber attack Russia did against Sweden? Over 120 authorities are not going to get their salary paid because they've shut it down completely. I think this is the war against Sweden from Russia. That's crazy. Also, notice how they don't criticize the U.S. for dangling NATO like a carrot stick for 16 years. If they think NATO and Ukraine are so critically important, why does that not bother them? For Ukrainians, like, they have nothing. Ukrainians are very similar to Kurds in that regard, where they just have nothing. Like, they don't want to... Like, I understand there is, especially now, the overwhelming majority is, in my opinion, not even remotely interested in associating with Russia, obviously. But given the chance, normalization with Russia is completely gone. But even if there was like a percentage of the population that was interested in dealing with Russia, okay, before the invasion, it was still not enough. It was a marginal percentage of the population. It was just not enough for it to be like a democratic association. And beyond that, at this point, it's like, yeah, they would rather get Western money, especially in the short term, and deal with the West. Ukrainian foreign minister Kuleba to Western countries, we offer you the best deal. You don't sacrifice your soldiers, give us weapons and money, and we will finish the job.
Important. You save few lives of your soldiers. So we kind of offer the best deal on global market of security.
It was marginal, and then post-2022 it became an extreme minority, quite understandably. Yeah, exactly. The example I use is Kharkiv. Kharkiv had a population within it that, it wasn't 50%, but there was still a not insignificant percentage of the population that like identified with Russian culture. There's no such thing at this point. Why would there be? It's just impossible. It's impossible to fucking be pro-Russia when, your apartment complex is being blown up, that your family members escaped the country because they didn't want to be conscripted because Russia is invading your country. You know what I mean? It's just like, not going to happen. The Crimea take pisses armies off. Yeah, there's a difference between Crimea and the rest of the other parts of the invasion. I know. The Crimea take absolutely frustrates people. It'll be frustrating when Zelensky or whoever is the Ukrainian leader, inevitably, if there is a peace deal, will throw the Crimea conversation back 15 years into the future for a democratic referendum vote on it 15 years in the future in an effort to just like stop the conversation from happening. The reason why they will do that is because Crimea is not like the rest of the country. The annexation of Crimea was not like the rest of the annexation of Ukraine. Anyway. Do you think the model of social democracy in the short term, socialism in the short term applies to the third world as well? Or do more dire conditions and intervention from the CIA and the like necessitate a revolutionary approach? Anyway. How much of the anti-Ukraine propaganda is true, mainly the Nazi part? I mean, Ukrainian nationalism has a history with aligning with Nazis. That is true. And we did arm units like the Azov Battalion that were seen as the first line of defense in Donbass specifically. That also was, that is also true. But overall, politically speaking, the Azov or other nationalist factions, hooligans and the like, that were fascist or fascist adjacent, their impact, in my opinion, has grown dramatically and has been directly whitewashed by Western media now as a direct consequence of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. A take that was probably my most prescient take. Something that I said directly on the day of the Russian invasion. Now, by the way, this doesn't mean that Russia doesn't have their own fucking fascists. Of course they do. It's the dumbest situation. You got fascists on both sides shooting at one another. So what you're supposed to look at is not like the prevalence of neo-Nazis in either side. What you're supposed to look at is whose cause is just. And my perspective on this has not changed. What Russia is doing in Ukraine is unjustifiable, immoral. Okay? What Ukraine is doing is emancipatory and just. This is why I regularly have talked about people just despise you because your foreign policy takes, because they get clipped down to snippets. There is no winning. Yes. This is why I've talked about over and over again how much of a massive failure the Russian invasion of Ukraine has been. How much of a massive failure the Russian invasion has been as far as like galvanizing other NATO countries, reaffirming the necessity for NATO in the eyes of the Western world, and even having formerly neutral countries actually join NATO. Massive issue. Russia is a fake socialist fascist state. There's nothing socialist about Russia. Russia is the remainder of the dissolution of the USSR, and it's absolutely propped up by Western-backed kleptocrats who were anti-regime, pro-regime change, and pro-capitalist. Putin himself included. Yeah. Minutes ago, Turkey just ratified Sweden's entry into NATO. Well, Turkey will do whatever they're told. They probably cut deals. Russia doesn't even ever pretend to be socialist. Putin doesn't ever pretend to be socialist. The only thing that Putin cares about as far as like USSR imagery is the projection of strength. spanning over a vast territory, controlling, you know, natural resources directly. That's it. There's nothing communist about Vladimir Putin. The only reason why this kind of imagery is invoked in Russia is because it is considered, the USSR is considered a fucking world power at the time. Not just a regional power, but a global hegemonic power. So it's a way to project strength through this mythology that you build. There's a strong communist party in Russia, though, but they won't win any elections. Strong communist party in Russia. There is no party in Russia that isn't controlled by Vladimir Putin. Get out of here, dude. Come on. That's ridiculous. The strong communist party of Russia also was pro-invasion of Ukraine. Get the fuck out of here. This is stupid. They're not strong. It's all fake controlled opposition. There's one dude that runs the show there, okay? The Russian socialist lie the Western tells are leftovers from McCarthyism. I think so too. Russia has an effective four-party system and Putin controls all four of them. Yes. So what happens when Putin dies? Massive destabilization. We'll see. Vladimir Putin. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yevgeny will return. No, Prigozhin. I saw a post saying you support the annexation of Crimea a few days ago. The comparison of that framing to what you just actually said is crazy. Your haters say that your positions lack nuance, but if that were true, they wouldn't feel the need to lie about them. Yeah. Anyway. In Russia, inside of you, there are two wolves, and they're both controlled by Putin. Yes. Yeah, I don't know what will fucking happen if when Putin dies. Not if, but when. I mean, he's old too, so we'll see. Kadyrov ascension, Muslim Russia. Yeah, dude, Russians are gonna let a fucking Muslim Chechen guy run the show. Come on. Yeah, no, they're gonna have a Dagestani dude. They're gonna get Khabib Nurmagomedov run the country. It's the same clip, but they never watched the full clip. Yeah. They're gonna have Hezbollah run the country. Anyway. The oligarch with the biggest military support will become premier, or America will worm its way inside. We'll see. I have no idea. I don't want to talk about it. The nuance is that we actually support Crimean annexation for the Tatars and by way for the Turks. I've said this before. Crimea belongs to the Tatar population, okay? In a period of Russification, far before Russia or Ukraine had any stake, any ownership on Crimea, the Tatars were forcibly removed from Crimea. So if we're talking about who actually owns Crimea, it's the Turks. Give Crimea back to the Turks, the Tatars. That's number one. If it's not owned by the Turks or the Tatars, then it's owned by Russia in that situation. Forcibly removed after collaborating in World War II. Doesn't matter. Not Turks, but Greeks. Greeks have an ownership claim over it too. Fine. Crimea, Turkey's Kashmir. Anyway. The latest clip circulating was their stance was NATO was built with Nazi generals and that through neoliberalism, fascism, and Nazism won, but it's just true. Yeah, I think that's one of the funnier things is when like my haters will clip something that is like objectively and demonstrably true, but because they don't know that it's like actually like that, and they know that most people are just like unconditionally going to be pro NATO regardless, they will promote it. It's one of my favorite things that like Post Left Watch or whatever does all the time too. Anyway, we're talking about ownership. Remember, nobody owns Trump. He's a businessman and can't be bought, famously. All right. Let's get back to it, though. Explosions occurred. Now, of course, is Crimea a Russian state thing? I don't understand. Crimea is the one of the easternmost points, had a military base, a Russian military base that was lent to Russia by Ukraine. In the 2014 annexation, the Russian military came in and took over and annexed Crimea. Leading up to the Crimean annexation, oh God, I've talked about this so many fucking times. There's videos on it, not from my haters, but videos from my channel, if you'd like to know more about the Crimean annexation by Russia. But leading up to the annexation of Crimea by Russia, and this is like recent history, I'm not talking about Tatars. Leading up to the Crimean annexation of Russia, or the annexation of Crimea by Russia, okay, there were numerous polls done. And the saying at the time, now obviously this is very different now, but at the time, contextually, the further east you went out, the more there was Russia support in Ukraine. Okay? There was political struggles. Russia wanted to keep Ukraine inside of the Russian sphere of influence over the Western sphere of influence. There were a lot of Western NGOs and civil society organizations that wanted to take Ukraine and bring Ukraine into the Western sphere of influence so they can use against Russia. So it had political importance. It's also a material importance. What ended up happening is after Russia's annexation, there were elections held. It's largely bullshit. I care more about the polling done before and the actions that happened after. For Ukraine, one of the moves after the Crimean annexation, after the Russian annexation of Crimea, was to blow up the waterways and dam or destroy the USSR built canals that gave water to Crimea. Yeah, he got Yanukovych to essentially turn against the EU association agreement as a step towards membership, which would move them into the West. Exactly. So the realpolitik answer is that Russia had concerns about Ukraine getting into the Western sphere of influence, and they wanted to stop it. And one way to manipulate that was by having DPR and LPR remain autonomous regions that would still be under the banner of the Ukrainian nation state, but that way they could interfere with the affairs of Ukrainian domestic politics. Okay? Ukraine obviously did not want this. And before that, obviously NATO membership was also dangled as a carrot for Ukraine, just like with Georgia. So Putin pulled a Georgia, or wanted to pull a Georgia, to completely ensure that Ukraine never actually joins NATO, and said that that is a red line and wanted to enforce that red line. And I was wrong when I said that he would never invade, and thought that they never floated DNR and LNR being under Ukraine. No, that's 100% a part of the Minsk agreements. You're wrong. No. Russia wanted DNR and LPR to stay under Ukrainian territory but have autonomy from Ukraine in an effort to interfere in Ukraine domestic politics. That was the overarching goal. I'm not wrong on this. That is what they wanted to do. I think the Sevastopol port and the overall military relevance of Crimea are more relevant goals here. Yeah, Crimea is a different story. We need Moldova, Mama Liga. They're the only ones with the correct take. Yes. You said this last year and the year before. Yes. So, I just want to say I'm 2/3 done with the Lex video, and I suggest not watching the entire 2 hours. There's timestamps of the subjects. Much love. Yeah, we will do it. We will do the Lex Fridman Shapiro Destiny video. Don't worry. Later. All right, let's get to the IDF explosion.
News overnight in the Israel-Hamas war. At least 21 Israeli soldiers were killed in Gaza. Matt Gutman is in Tel Aviv with the latest developments. Matt, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mary. This was the deadliest attack on Israeli troops.
I thought it was 24. The number increased to 24, no? 24 soldiers killed on deadliest day for Israeli forces in Gaza combat. All right. UK not seeking confrontation with the Houthis, says Sunak. Nice.
Yeah, the Israeli military said that a unit of Israeli reserves was trying to demolish a pair of two-story buildings in Gaza when Palestinian militants nearby fired an RPG that hit a tank. That blast apparently triggered a chain reaction that detonated the mines the soldiers were going to use in the buildings, causing a
what a crazy way to explain the story, by the way. Why were there so many mines? Why is there a controlled demolition happening in these buildings? You know what I mean? Like, how are we looking at this situation and going, oh man, it's just, what a sad state of affairs, guys. It's like, bro, we're talking about an invading force doing an illegal occupation as a belligerent occupier upon a population that it's like destroying and doing ethnic cleansing towards. And then they like comically explode themselves as they're horny to fucking shoot another TikTok video about how sick it is to blow up another Palestinian home. And then, yeah, the defensive forces in that situation blow up a tank, and then the tank explosion triggers all of the landmines, ending up with 21 guys dying in the rubble. Yeah, they went full Rube Goldsberg. Yeah, exactly, like a machine. A chain reaction. It's just ridiculous to cover it on simultaneously cover it with like neutrality, right? The neutral tone that they are invoking here, as though these guys were just like casually there, not doing anything bad, okay? But then beyond that, they're also talking about it like it's a massive atrocity. Your chat is disgusting, dude, and you let them act this way. They're disgusting for what? They're disgusting for what reason? You would never, ever in a million years look at this if the IDF were not considered to be foreign allies, okay, attacking what is declared a foreign adversary. You would never look at the circumstance and go, oh man, I'm so sad about this. Obviously, every death sucks. Okay, across the board. But the notion that like these guys they're military. They're an occupying force engaging in an act of ethnic cleansing. It's ridiculous, dude. It's ridiculous. The greatest way to avoid these casualties would be to not do ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't want to hear about moralizations from dudes who are fantasizing about like 19-year-olds in Yemen being blown to bits by American, you know, our awesome super missiles. Okay, crazy. These guys are doing something that is incredibly fucked up. They're not just, the mines aren't there for de-escalatory purposes. The mines are there to blow up civil society. Okay, what remains of like the homes of the Gazan people. This is like the purest act of self-defense. It is so, if you think that I'm going to sit here and act like, oh man, this is such a bad situation, you're out of your fucking mind. You can get mad at me all day. Okay? People did this, and much worse, by the way. I'm not even like jerking off to the violence here, by the way, because I'm not a fucking Reddit NATO liberal who masturbated to like Russian conscripts getting blown to fucking shreds when they were also engaging in an act of unjustifiable violence inside of Ukrainian boundaries. So look to your own past, your own recent past. Okay? If you want to understand, you know, how one may feel in this circumstance. It's crazy. It's like, I'm of the mindset that the Russian conscript has less of a say in the invasion of Ukraine than the fucking IDF conscripts do, or the IDF reservists do, by the way. That's the other thing. We're talking about not a fucking invasion on a country that is like being armed by the United States, by the way. The side that is armed by the United States is the one that's doing the one that has like the one that has demonstrated awesome power. Anyway, I'm more worried about how Israel's going to react to this. I don't think you should worry about how Israel's going to react to this. I might be totally off base here, but I think a massive casualty toll like this looks really bad in Israel. You can't hide it. You just took a fat fucking L in. And that greatly accelerates the shelf life of this ethnic cleansing campaign. Okay? That's it. That's the difference. 1,000 Palestinians can die in the hands of Israeli forces, okay? But one, they have nowhere to go. Two, they consider that to be martyrdom in defense of their, you know, in defense of what remains of their home. But when Israel is engaging in an offensive act like this, one death of an Israeli reservist means so much more. Like the toll, like there is, you know, and so far 200 Israeli occupying force members have died, right? Have been died in this offensive war that is completely unjustifiable so far. Okay. So the reality is, I mean, that we know of, right? The reality is that greatly, greatly lowers the time that Israel can conduct itself like this. And this came right as like Israel was potentially leaning into a 2-month ceasefire, according to Barak Ravid's reporting yesterday. Because the pressure against the Israeli government has mounted tremendously. Okay? Like, Israel is now dealing with a shit ton of opposition internally. Okay? So something to consider.
I mean, there are many who are saying that, frankly, the Biden administration should have acted sooner and faster, that hundreds of billions of dollars.
This is about the Houthi targets from the US and UK. I'm going to show you this while I go pee really quickly.
Has been put at risk because the Houthis have held this area in the Red Sea at ransom.
Sorry, so just let me get this straight, Yelda. So we are bombing the poorest, one of the poorest countries in the world that has been under a humanitarian blockade. There has been famine. These people have been decimated. And we are bombing them because a couple of guys in dinghies in support for the Palestinians who are having a genocide committed against them. They're objecting to that, and we're bombing them. Come on now. I mean, this is just an insane world for us to even think. I'm so sorry your Amazon packages are delayed. I really am. Like, I wish mine came on time. But, you know, genocide, guys, genocide. There are 2 mothers a day dying in Gaza right now. It's 109 days into a conflict in which a humanitarian crisis has been declared to the world day in, day out.
By the way, Dr. Francois, there are many who are Yemen watchers who monitor and follow the Houthis who say this is doing wonders for their branding, actually, that it isn't just the Palestinian cause that they're focused on.
So call a ceasefire now and end the positive branding. If you want to stop the Houthis doing what they're doing, then call a ceasefire right now.
Do you genuinely believe that the Houthis would stop doing what they're doing?
They have literally said that that's why they're doing what they're doing. They have not previously blocked those routes for any other reason except this one. So yes, I do. And I also think the West needs to start to understand that you cannot just go around playing cowboys in the world. There are consequences to your actions. You cannot just go around bombing people's countries, ignoring...
I've never seen such... this is like, this is incredible.
International law and expect no repercussions. For every cause, there is a consequence. And just because you don't like a couple of guys trying to resist,
I mean, these are now prescribed terrorists.
Sure, according to Western governments.
Well, it's awesome. See, look, notice how she immediately hit the, well, you're defending terrorists, by the way. That's bullshit. It's bullshit. Okay, they weren't until last week. Biden decided. Who cares? Bullshit. Bullshit. Get out of here. The next phase of this is to say, well, they're slavers. They've done this, they've done that, right? It is ridiculous to call the Ansar Allah administration terrorists while simultaneously saying that the Saudis and the UAE and their actions upon Yemen, not terror, but good, is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Yeah. Hasan, you should become religious. Freddy Fazballs. You want to spend an eternity in hell with the IDF? Fred, your name is Freddy Fazballs, okay? You're going there too.
Also, according to the Yemeni people, because they've
which is a Saudi-backed government, which is essentially our.
But the Yemenis who live, you know, under Houthi rule talk about the fact that this group continues to terrorize them as well.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. It's not true. You are always going to have people who are obviously objecting to their own individual governments. That part is, of course, true. But the notion that, like, God, the slavery thing is so funny, especially because, like, dude, the people bombing Yemen do infinitely more slavery. Like, it's wild to look at, like, the UAE and Saudi Arabia and what they're saying about Yemen as it pertains to slavery, and just like it's like if it's like if the Confederates were claiming that there was slavery happening in the North as well. Okay, is there truth to that? There was wage slavery, some forms of course, institutionalized racism as well. But like, it would be like claiming that the Confederates were actually fighting to abolish slavery in the North. Okay, that's what it feels like. Yemen women's rights non-existent. Fair. Like these are obviously it's not great. Okay. The point is, half the reason why it's not great is because these countries have not even been able to like develop on their own without foreign interference. But more importantly than that, these these are these bombing campaigns are not done to protect the slaves or free them or anything like that. It's just like such a stupid argument to make. Yeah. The notion that like our bombing campaign in Yemen is going to give women's rights to the Yemeni population is so fucking stupid. Two wrongs don't make a right. Okay? Hasan, I'm Yemeni. I would like to clear things up for you. Go ahead, clear it up in the chat. Yemeni chatter. I mean, I hear a lot from Yemeni academics and journalists and whatnot in the past week or so since my interview, but the perfect position here, the position here is pretty easy to understand. It's okay. Let's try ending the genocide in Gaza. And if the Houthis still keep going, okay, if the Houthis still keep going, then we'll deal with it there. It's bullshit. The Houthis weren't genocided? Oh, okay, got it. What? As a Yemeni, are you going to tell me, Pan-Arabist, that it was actually like the Houthis themselves that were responsible for the genocide and not the coalition forces? Is that what you're going to say? Because like even the Yemenis were genocided. Fair. This is true. Okay, that is correct. Yes. Both are bad. Okay, got it. Do you think Western nations that have destroyed these Middle Eastern nations should give humanitarian aid to rebuild the countries, or should we completely pull out of the region? No, I think that we should be doing a Marshall Plan without any sort of additional asks, like reparations to every country that we have bombed and destabilized. His name is Pan-Arabist, so I want to hear what he has to say. But I think you whitewashed the Houthi crimes. No, I don't. I don't whitewash the Houthi crimes at all. Because I look at the greater crime, and that is genocide. If genocide is the greater crime, then that's it. Genocide is the greater crime. This is a perfectly normal position to have. And the genocide upon the Yemeni population is significant, is a direct consequence of the American proxies in the area and their interests in what happens in Yemen, or what should happen in Yemen. See, I like what they're doing now and I support their actions. Okay, so you and I are in 100% agreement then. Great. Not even a debate. It's like claiming you're pro-Saddam for saying the American invasion of Iraq was bad. Exactly. It's exactly like that. It is identical to that, which is funny because, like, that is what they were saying back then, and that's kind of what a lot of people are saying now. The Houthi crimes of what? Being a militarized force? No, dude. They seized power in, I would say, a relatively opportunistic fashion due to the real interest from the Yemeni population to overthrow the leadership at the time. And in that process, given that this is like, given that this was already an incredibly poor country, and the regional actors and their bombing campaign that ensued, the things that they did in that process, were obviously, especially by Western standards, horrifying. Okay? That's it. As far as like child soldiers, for example, which, by the way, once again, the Saudi-aligned forces also utilized You're making things up. What am I making up right now? What have I said that's wrong? What I mean, I hope you have a I hope you have a take on this. Anyway, I'm a Yemeni and they were right now and before this pan-Arab blaming them for the coalition that genocided the Yemenis that these mercenaries asked for and supported. Anyway, what? Bro, you can explain to me? You had that young boy Houthi pirate guy on the show after he went viral. He mentioned, if I remember right, that he didn't support pirates or Houthi as such. Yet the days after they are bombing Houthi pirate places. Where's the logic if they knew that most, if not all, these pirates was on a part of the Houthi, then bomb them? What? I don't even know what you're saying. The interview has nothing to do with the bombing. But if anything, I think people are mad because they want to make the bombing feel good and it makes them feel bad. I think you failed, but it's also important to mention that they're bad because it serves no purpose. It serves no purpose. I talk about like the banner that they have where they say curse the Jews is anti-Semitic, but overall there's no reason to mention this. Okay, it's like it's playing the same role over and over again. It's like constantly talking about condemning Hamas, condemn Hamas, condemn Hamas, condemn Hamas. Like it's just it's a way to just move the conversation back to a comfortable framing that like Western audiences want to understand and want to believe. And the reason why I don't want to do that is because in a situation between bad and worse, yeah, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with the bad when there's so much worse happening to the bad. That's it. Especially when I'm trying to help Americans come to terms and see the humanity in the Arab population, something that they have refused to do almost systematically. All right.
I'm no fan of the Houthis, apart from when they're blockading in favor of a ceasefire, which should have been called a long time ago. 55,000 people are dead in Gaza right now. There are over 60,000 people injured with no access to food, water, aid. How dare we have a conversation about trade when there are children right now being treated without anesthetic? Well,
it's funny because like the condemnation conversation also is so stupid. Because, like, there's never any condemnation for America's actions. And if you're even criticizing America's actions as an American, you are met with, like, condemn the Houthis, condemn the Houthis, condemn the Houthis, condemn Hamas, condemn Hamas. There is no condemnation for the IDF. And if we are looking at the lesser evil here, okay, America's actions in that region and Israel's actions in that region are significantly worse. Okay, and I'm a harm reduction guy. Okay, that's it. It's a false binary. It just lets you reduce reality to good or bad when these revolutionary forces require nuanced understanding, the same nuance the West was so quick to give Israel. Yeah, that's it. And it's being done by people who desperately want to cling on to any reason to feel good and morally righteous about blowing up targets inside of Yemen. That's it. Exactly what you just said. If you point out the base 24/7, which you already point out, it's going to give them more reason to hate them anyways when they're already talking or listening to you in bad faith, probably. It's just, that's it. I'm doing harm reduction. Okay.
Things that require us to make some sacrifices, and this would be one of them.
They do have the global economy, global markets hostage.
Good for them.
Bill Brad.
Wait, what did she say? Global market hostage?
Being
What?
treated without anesthetic.
Well,
there are things that require us to make some sacrifices, and this would be one of them.
They do have the global economy, global markets hostage.
Good for them.
They're keeping the global markets hostage? Yeah. Okay, what's worse? Genocide in Gaza or someone trying to hold the global markets hostage, okay, so that the genocide in Gaza stops? Especially when we have the opportunity and the capacity to stop the genocide in Gaza. And it's much simpler. Like, guys, there are certain things that are completely outside of Biden's power, okay? If there's a will, there's a way. I'm sure that he could do a better job, right? Or maybe even do things that are unconstitutional. And who gives a shit if, like, the Supreme Court doesn't agree with him or whatever, right? He could be a bit of a tyrant if he wanted to, right? In the direction that is positive, but won't do it because he's an institutionalist lib when it comes to, like, I don't know, having healthcare or something, giving every American healthcare. Like, there are a lot of things that he has to go through Congress on. Israel is not one of them. Anyone that tells you that Biden can't single-handedly cause Israel to cease its hostilities is completely oblivious to the power that the president has, and is also completely oblivious to the history of the American presidency and what the executive office has done in the past with other cessation of hostilities in Israel. Biden himself in 2021 literally made a phone call to stop Israel. Okay? One phone call. He said, it's over. It's done. Enough. And they did. Ronald Reagan has done this in the past. Okay? And ironically, Biden has actually sidestepped Congress time and time again when it comes to helping Israel. And here's the actual truth, okay? I can't believe I'm going to use this guy's tweets again, but I think it's very informative on how liberals, one, don't fully understand the things they speak on. Hold on. But still, that doesn't stop them from being, like, really smarmy. Where is it? I saw, like, a thread from Will Stansel. Okay, I don't know. Oh, here it is. Here it is. People keep saying, well, actually, Biden does have the power to unilaterally impose sanctions and order airstrikes, etc. Here it is. This would not work. Biden can't instruct Netanyahu to do anything. He can't even stop sending weapons without defying Congress. Wrong. He can do both of those things. He certainly can't simply command Netanyahu to create a Palestinian state conditioned on the return of hostages. It's an independent nation. Every single thing that Will Stansel mentioned here is demonstrably false. Okay? Every single part of this is wrong. Literally every single part of it. And he knows it too, because people yelled at him. It's frustrating because the widespread belief that Biden could simply call the whole thing off makes it harder to seek things he could do. Support a ceasefire, make noise about war crimes, which, by the way, he's not doing. Not doing either of these things, by the way. Why is he not doing either of those things? I don't know. Express much more public sympathy for Gazans. People will clearly see those as dodges. Yeah, that's the reason why Biden is not doing those things, because people would see them as dodges. Now, obviously everyone yelled at him, and he immediately turned around and said, people keep saying, well, actually, Biden does have the power to unilaterally impose sanctions and order airstrikes, etc. But the point is that Congress would freak out if he turned hard anti-Israel. It would be a political catastrophe and he'd lose. We're not going to attack Israel. Oh, so Biden does have the power. It's just not politically favorable. So why didn't you say that up here? Why didn't you just come out of the gates swinging with, well, actually, Biden could unilaterally, single-handedly impose sanctions or even stop Israel, not give Israel the weapons, okay? Not give Israel the munitions, even though it is currently sidestepping Congress in its effort to send as many dumb bombs to Israel as possible, okay? So why didn't you say that in the beginning? Is it because you were oblivious to the reality? I suspect yes. You did not know that that is the case. And then people yelled at you, and then maybe you recognized that that was the case. So then you had to move the fucking goalposts and be like, well, it would be politically not favorable. Okay. Okay, then. But you didn't say that in the beginning. Okay? That's it. It's so stupid. It's a perfect distillation of the way liberals think and operate. Oh, actually, you silly idiot, you don't understand. The institutions do not allow him to do this. Oh, wait. He is actually overriding the institutional controls specifically to help Israel? Okay, well, if he didn't do that, then people would be mad at him, and therefore he would lose his power. All right, then what is the distinction between him and fucking Donald Trump then in this situation? Also, ironic considering that Biden is already incredibly unfavorable anyway. Is Will Stansel just a useful idiot? He's nothing. He's just the guy that everybody yells at on Twitter. But I like using his takes because they're, one, very dumb usually, and two, demonstrates liberal thought perfectly to a T. It's just like a Twitter guy that everybody fucking freaks out over. Yeah. Legal problems, political problems, and market problems get painted with one brush by liberals who don't care enough to make the distinction because they want to stack it in their favor to get the chance. Yes. Proud member of Do Something Twitter. Yeah. Do something. What is that something? Continuation of genocide, it seems. So, yeah. The right is saying he's wasting tax money like Vivek, and the left recognizes genocide as wrong. No. The reality is that, obviously, unconditional alliance with Israel is overwhelmingly popular in the demographics that do vote. That's just the truth. But I don't care. Okay? I think being strong and reining Israel in this regard, in this situation, would be great. You would look like a fucking badass. That's it.